Hyundai have just sold out of the first edition of the Ioniq 6 for good reason. It's an incredibly impressive car. Is it better than a Tesla Model 3? I'm going to give you a definitive answer on this. My answer might not be what you think. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. Great to have you. Welcome to all the new subscribers. Welcome back, everyone else. Thank you for tuning in. Great to have all the new subscribers coming on board recently, and we're seeing a lot more views on the channel. So thank you for tuning in and also for clicking that little icon notification bell, because clearly more of you are getting our videos in your feed, which is really exciting. You know what else is really exciting? I have to say I'm excited. My boys are excited. We're going to the US in October next year, and I'll be in Sydney in March next year as well. So what are we doing there? Well, first of all, I'm hoping to meet as many of you as possible at the Fully Charged show in March in Sydney and Fully Charged in California in the US. And I'll be in California for probably a week or two. I'm going to go and see as many electric cars and as much of this, to be honest, as much sightseeing as I can, because Mount Whitney, I'll be wanting to climb Mount Whitney, maybe doing a few other things as well, but I digress here. Hyundai's Ioniq 6. It's actually in a lot of ways better than a Model 3, in a lot of ways, than the current Model 3. I think the new Model 3 with M3P batteries is going to change the game significantly, but the current model, in a lot of ways, some ways no, in some very significant ways no, in some ways it is better. What ways is it better? Well, first of all, Hyundai Ioniq 6 first edition limited run model has been launched in Europe. It's sold out in less than 24 hours, and pre-sales began on the 9th of November. Yeah, this is the disappointing part. 2,500 units of the Ioniq 6 first edition available in Germany, which had the biggest allocation of a grand total of 1,000 units. The UK, France, Norway, and the Netherlands sold out within less than 24 hours, despite a base price of 55,000 in the UK and 66,400 in Germany. That's around about 69,000 US dollars at the current exchange rate. The first edition model, I mean, to be honest, it's not cheap, but it's good. Hyundai says that customers who are able to secure an exclusive edition online will get their vehicle delivered in March or April next year. And those who weren't able to will apparently at some point in time get an offer from their dealer, whatever that means. Probably means that eventually, if you put your name down at your dealership, you'll get a car. Might be next year, could be the following year. No one really knows. Hyundai make brilliant EVs. They just don't make enough of them. Now, this is the top of the line edition. What makes it the top of the line? Well, it's got a bigger battery pack, it's all-wheel drive, and it's got some extra features. The battery pack, 77.4 kilowatt hour pack, so it's quite a bit bigger than the battery pack in a Tesla Model 3. That powertrain has 240 kilowatt, which is 320 horsepower, and 605 newton meters of torque. That's 446 pound-feet of torque. That sends power to four wheels via the dual motor powertrain, and that is a fair bit of power and torque, but it's not really a competitor for the Tesla Model 3 performance. It clearly doesn't have anywhere near the power of the Model 3 performance. So I can't really compare those two vehicles. They're different types of cars. In many ways they are similar, but ultimately they are different in a sense. One is, able to beat a BMW M2 around a racetrack. The other one is really more, I would say, a luxury car. There's one other big way that they differ as well. That is the size. The Ioniq 6 it's a bit bigger. It's around about 5% bigger. Not massively bigger, but around about 5% bigger. What about range? Well, here's where Hyundai have done some incredible stuff. They've managed to make this car look very polarizing. I mean, to be honest, the Model 3 is a bit polarizing as well, but frankly, I don't know what to think about the looks. Sometimes I look at it and I think, yeah, it looks really good. Other times I look at it and I think, that's weird. It really depends on the angle, I think, in the photos. Some people love it. Some people hate it. Some people are, I don't think many people are indifferent. It really is a polarizing look, but it's for good reason that it looks like that. Why did they design it like that? Mostly for aerodynamic efficiency, and actually it works. Its WLTP range as a result is very impressive. And one of the key reasons for that range is that it's the most aerodynamic vehicle that Hyundai has ever made, delivering an impressive 0.21 drag coefficient. It makes a big difference with an EV. For example, with an electric car, if you just fold your mirrors down, that will give you probably a few extra percent of range. That's what people have found. Aerodynamic efficiency is massive. The vehicle's slippery shape plays a big part in its efficiency, giving it a maximum range of 382 miles. That's about 614 kilometers. By the way, that's not the EPA testing, which will probably be, well, not probably, it'll definitely be less than that on the EPA test. This is the WLTP cycle. So there's technically 5 different models. There's the entry-level model, which comes with a 53 kilowatt hour battery. Now that battery pack is that's the closest vehicle you can compare to the Tesla Model 3 standard range. That one gives you 429 kilometers of range and 269 miles. It's got a little bit less range than the standard range Tesla Model 3, which has a slightly bigger battery pack. But remember, the Model 3 does have one significant advantage, which is it's a lithium iron phosphate battery pack, and it's not made by LG Chem. It's made by CATL, much more likely to last a long time. I know some of you are going to hate that, but that's true. It's a fact. Now, the other 4 models all have the bigger battery pack, which is a 77.4 kilowatt hour battery, and it's rear-wheel drive. The first variant, rear-wheel drive, 18-inch wheels, that gives you 614 kilometers of range or 382 miles. The rear-wheel drive with 20-inch wheels, well, you can see here why it's dumb to buy bigger wheels. 20-inch wheels, you get 545 kilometers of range or 339 miles. Basically, just by having, those bigger wheels, you're getting 43 miles less range or 69 kilometers. I mean, it's really ridiculous. In my opinion, go for the style. I mean, 2-inch bigger wheels, really, it gives you nothing. In terms of performance, it just decreases the range significantly. The next model up is the all-wheel drive with 18-inch wheels. That'll give you 583 kilometers of range. That's 362 miles. The premium spec model, the launch edition, all-wheel drive, 20-inch wheels, 519 kilometers of range or 323 miles. In my opinion, the 2 models to go for out of these 5 are definitely the bigger battery pack rear-wheel drive 18-inch model, 614 kilometers. That's the model that's going to give you the most range, 382 miles. That's the maximum, highest range you can get with this vehicle. And that's a really long distance. It's a little bit less range than you get from a Tesla Model 3 long range. The other model I think is worth considering is the all-wheel drive with 18-inch wheels, 362 miles of range and 583 kilometers. As Hyundai says, the range and efficiency numbers are directly related to the Ioniq 6's ultra-low aerodynamic drag coefficient of 0.21. And they say that the project went through extensive aerodynamic design and engineering work to achieve one of the lowest drag coefficients in the industry. It is one of the lowest. It's extremely low. The main design elements that they've put into the car to actually give it more aerodynamic efficiency are an active air flap, wheel air curtains, an integrated rear spoiler, and wheel gap reducers. Some of those things I didn't even, like wheel gap reducers, I wouldn't have even thought of that. But reducing the gap between the wheel and the car means you actually have less drag. Now, the Ioniq 6 benefits also from using Hyundai Motor Group's dedicated architecture for EVs. That reduces the weight, makes the car a better vehicle. It's its electric global modular platform, EGMP, used already in the Hyundai Ioniq 5, the Kia EV6, and the Genesis GV60. It's very important because on top of the long range, the Ioniq 6 also gives you 10 to 80% charge in 18 minutes. If you can find a charger that'll charge it far at that kind of speed. There's not a lot of them at the moment, but it definitely depends on where you live, of course, on that experience. And you need to be able to use an 800 volt ultra fast charger. But ultimately, the reality is if you've got those chargers, you can charge this thing incredibly quickly. 10 to 80%, 18 minutes. I mean, realistically, that's a very short period of time. And it's going to make it really good for long range travel. You got longer range, plus you can charge the battery quickly. This is like the best of both worlds in that sense. Of course, like I said, the only downside is that the charging network, finding 800 volt fast chargers that can do 350 kilowatt fast charging. It depends on the country you live in. Some countries don't have them at all, like period. They don't have any single one. So some countries will have a few of them. Some countries will have a lot. Some will have none. Now, apparently Hyundai have already sold more than 6,000 of the Ioniq 6 in South Korea in September and October, but they've only actually exported 29 so far. Now, personally, I actually much prefer the Kia EV6 and the Hyundai Ioniq 5. But if you want a sedan type car, this is a really good option. So if you're comparing this against the Tesla Model 3, in many ways they're similar. Both can charge really quickly. Of course, the Hyundai can charge at a higher top speed, but the question is how many chargers are you going to find to be able to do that? So I don't think the charging speed of the Hyundai Ioniq 6 is an advantage over a Tesla, because realistically Tesla chargers, you're more likely to be able to find them, so therefore you're more likely to be able to charge that one at a fast speed, even though it's not quite the limit of the Ioniq 6. I personally would say they're a bit of a wash on that level. Maybe a bit of an advantage to Tesla simply because of their charging charging network. That said, you might soon be able to use your Ioniq 6 on Tesla's charging network to charge, depending on what country you're in, but eventually you'll be able to use it on all of Tesla's network. So that'll be good as well. Now, in terms of the efficiency of both cars, they're actually very similar efficiency. I would say Hyundai and Tesla are doing incredibly well in that area, and they're beating their rivals, definitely. When I say rivals, I mean price rivals here. I'm not going to compare them to cars costing 3 times as much. That's not really relevant. So what's the weight of the two cars? The Ioniq 6 is quite a bit heavier than a Tesla Model 3. It weighs between 1,850 kilo. That's for the vehicle with the smaller battery pack, the 55 kilowatt hour pack. Remember that pack, tiny bit smaller than the pack in Tesla's Model 3 standard range. Also, it's a ternary battery. The standard range battery is a lithium iron phosphate battery. So generally, lithium iron phosphate batteries are heavier. So you would think the Model 3 would be maybe closer in weight to the Ioniq 6, but surprisingly, it's just over 100 kilos lighter, but it is a smaller car. The top model Ioniq 6 weighs about 2,100 kilos, which is around 4,550 pounds. It's a fair bit heavier than a comparable Tesla Model 3, but it is a bigger car. It's 5% bigger. Honestly, I think it's a win to the Tesla Model 3 in terms of the weight of both cars, and I think that probably comes down to Tesla's structural engineering of the vehicle. Using gigacasting is definitely a way to reduce the weight. And you've got to consider the fact that Tesla's batteries in that base model, that's the highest selling model that they sell. The lithium iron phosphate model, standard range model, that's the highest seller in the world by far. So I think that's probably the fairest one to compare this to. And the reality is, would you prefer a ternary battery from LG Chem, or would you prefer a lithium iron phosphate battery from CATL? Now, if you're watching this channel, if you've been watching it for a while, you would know by now that the LG Chem battery, well, they are the battery company that have more recalls than every other battery company in the world put together in the last 3 years. So that battery could be great, or it could be terrible. We have no idea, no way of knowing what's going to happen within the next few years, if it'll be recalled, if you'll be without your car for a few months while it gets fixed. It's pretty much happened to every brand that uses LG Chem batteries. In my opinion, that's a clear fail for Hyundai. There's just no way of getting around that reality. But it could be great. So you are taking a risk on a car that's a lovely car. But that said, more than likely it'll probably be fine. Personally, I just prefer the lithium iron phosphate battery, and I only plan to buy cars with lithium iron phosphate batteries. That's the key reason for me. I go with the Tesla Model 3. That said, I actually think the Hyundai Ioniq 6, in many ways, is a better car. Many ways. In terms of its interior style, there's lots of things about it that are nicer. It's got more luxury features. It's a bit bigger, meaning the interior is a bit bigger. However, the key issue here for me is a Hyundai Ioniq 6 could be the best car in the world. But if Hyundai continue to do what they've been doing, selling out limited editions like this, selling them in small numbers, making people wait forever, then realistically this car is not an option for most people. Like here in Australia, if you want a Hyundai Ioniq 5, you've basically got to enter the lottery or wait years. That to me is not really ideal. So if you're going to compare the two cars together, you've got to ask yourself the question, can I even get the Hyundai Ioniq 6? I don't know. Depends on what country you're in. Most likely, you probably aren't going to have to wait a long time. It's a good car, and Hyundai don't make that many of them. Now let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. But once again, just a reminder, I am personally waiting for the M3P batteries with CATL structural battery pack. I think those are going to be the holy grail. Those in a Tesla Model Y, that's the car I'm keen to get. But I do love what Hyundai is doing with their EVs, and I actually think they're second only to Tesla in the market in terms of the quality of their EVs for the price. The key problem though is just availability. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.